Hey y'all, what's up? So, the Mars Volta just had their first show in 10 years. I mean, Omar's been performing and Cedric's been performing and they've had anti-mask or whatever, but the Mars Volta hasn't played in 10 years and I unfortunately couldn't go to the show in Texas. I live, in Texas but not in Dallas where they played cuz 2 days before I had to go to New Mexico. Okay, I had to drive all the way to New Mexico and didn't have enough funds and money to come back and drive back to Dallas and then back again. So it just didn't work out for me. But luckily, someone posted on YouTube. So yeah, that's what I get. It's the best band of all time. Their new album is incredible. It's not some 10-minute long song jam session. It's solid melody, verse chorus, bridge, verse chorus. It's like the Beatles for our 21st century. I've heard like 10 times now the whole album. It's so good, at least 10 times. It's just on repeat for me. And even my father, well, my stepdad, but I grew up with him, water's thicker than blood. Um, so he likes it too, and he's a grown up, obviously. I'm 35, but I still don't consider myself, a grown up. What does Jesus say? Only as a child can you enter the kingdom of heaven. So I try to have a youthful attitude, and then I just experience life that way too. Not immaturely, because I'm reading, spiritual, deep adult stuff, but that's how you have the imagination to keep going. A lot of adults go into science and become nihilists because they just want facts and answers. I want opinions, ideas, and art. Anyway, the Mars Volta's new album, self-titled, is so amazing. I've been following them since 2004. The year after they created their LP or their EP or whatever. Um, it's something I've connected with for almost 20 years, basically, y'all. And what's cool is that both the main members, Omar and Cedric, not only was it formed in El Paso, the exact city I was born in, the small Texas city that you don't even think about, El Paso, that's where I was born. But then I moved to Houston when I was 2 or 3, so I didn't even, remember anything about the city. But it's my spiritual roots. And if my birth chart would be different if I was born in Houston versus El Paso. I needed to be born there and then grow up in Houston. Whatever. So they formed there with At the Drive-In. At the Drive-In's last album was 2001. Then they did the Mars Volta because they got bored at the punk shit and wanted to do whatever they wanted. You can call it prog rock, but it's just pure genius. And then At the Drive-In, formed again back in 2017. But then, Mars Volta was like, no, it's still boring. Let me do our own thing. So they were not only formed in El Paso, Texas, which means the pass, obviously, but they have moon in Cancer, astrologically. Okay? We all have moon in Cancer. Omar Rodriguez Lopez, Cedric Bixler Zavala, you have the moon in the sign, in its ruling sign. Okay? We all do. And DJ Screw as well. So, and Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix, all my musical favorites have moon in Cancer. So these two Hispanic dudes from El Paso happens to be my favorite band. Like literally, for me, of all time, it's the Beatles, then the Mars Volta. They're constantly battling. Usually the Mars Volta wins because it's my generation. Whereas the Beatles is like the Mozart of, rock and roll, Mozart, Beethoven, whoever. That's the Beatles for rock and roll. But Mars Volta is my generation, our generation. I was 17 when I was jamming Mars Volta's 20-minute long tracks. Okay? And now my stepdad loves this album. Like he understands, like it's the most approachable album so far, Besides that, nothing much.